If we were to pick unique industrial techno artists, KRTM would be definitely an interesting figure. I like his style not only because his kicks have an original rumble, the synth sounds KRTM makes are also one of their own kind. In this tutorial, we will use Serum to explore his sound more, so stick around if you want your music to sound more diverse. The Ableton project from this video can be downloaded from my Patreon page, and if you want to get more original hard/industrial techno sounds and Serum presets, check out my upcoming pack. Hard techno reinforcement will contain not only diverse Serum presets, but also unique kick drums, along with vocal samples and more. Sign up to the waiting list or try your luck and participate in the remix contest of mine that I launched with Memphis label. You can win not only the upcoming sample and preset pack for free, but also a release at the Memphis label and Bandcamp discount coupons. If there was only one thing for you to remember from this tutorial, then it would be the fact that KRTM style sounds like vibrato, a constant and fast pitch modulation. I will start making the lead sound by using a sub oscillator. I need some basic waveform playing, over which I will play something more original later. That will be our lead fundamental. Usually a saw wave works best. For vibrato effect, I will use the fast LFO for pitch modulation. We will leave the triangle wave, but I will set the LFO mode to trigger, so the vibrato rhythm is always synchronized with the beat. I want that modulation to be fast, and the rate of 1/16 sounds best for me. I want to assign this LFO to the sub oscillator's pitch, but since this oscillator doesn't have a coarse control, like the oscillator A and B, I need to work around it a bit. Let's hit the matrix tab and assign a modulation in a different way. Starting from the left, I pick the first LFO as the modulation source. This fader sets the modulation range. The modulation target I need is hidden in the global category, under the master tune position. Currently, the amount of vibrato is too large. Typically, the modulation range is close to 1 or 2. At last, to not make this lead out of pitch, I set the modulation type to bidirectional. Since master tune is the modulation target, each extra oscillator I will add now will have the pitch automatically modulated in the same way. So let's add something more to the sound. In the oscillator A, I want a waveform that sounds a bit like a human voice and doesn't have lots of high frequencies. Such waveforms can be found in the Wobble category. Just pick a wavetable and adjust its wavetable position knob to find the sound you like. Let's add the sub oscillator now. The sound has gotten interesting, but a typical thing I do to make a lead sound fuller is pitching up or down one of the oscillators to make it take a different frequency range. I would like to make the sound crispier, almost as if I used a distortion, but without adding high frequencies. I can try using the warping section with the warping mode set to either flip or mirror. Play around with the warping amount until you find the settings you like. Some extra modulation could come from a filter that would simultaneously emphasize mid-frequencies. Let's turn on the filter and assign both sub and A oscillators. I will substitute a low-pass filter with a band reject one. This filter comes with the width control that gives an interesting filter curve. I will set the cutoff frequency much higher to not make the sound dull. The aggressiveness of peaks is set with the filter resonance control. This filter resonance can be modulated too for an extra effect. We can use the first LFO once again. use distortion very soon, so before that let's add some drive in the filter section. The sound is slightly different each time I play a note. To fix that, in the oscillator A, I will turn off the phase randomization. This will make the oscillator always start with the same phase. Is there anything else I can do to feel the sound more in the OSC tab? We will add the third oscillator yet, but before that let me advertise myself quickly and just say that if you wish to have other sound design or music production subjects explained in such an easy and practical way, consider going onto my website to learn more about my private music production lessons. Free consultations are available as well. What's left is to add a noise oscillator. Adding a low-pitched noise will help making the lead more interesting. I will leave the default alpha and Z noise sample and adjust only its pitch and volume to make it suit the sound better. The sound will be spiced up now in the effects tab. Naturally, the sound should have some background that fills the space, so let's start with a reverb. The whole reverb type sounds more transparent than the plate one, and I think that would suit the KRTM sound more. I will set the size and decay parameters now. The size tells the character of the reverb, while decay makes the reverb longer or shorter. Also in practice, these both knobs have an influence over the reverb's overall length. I will make the reverb both lighter and darker by using both low cut and high cut knobs. The spin and spin depth add modulation to the reverb. Since the lead is already modulated with a vibrato, I think the reverb spin is useless here. At last, I blend the reverb with the mix knob. I have mentioned distortion earlier, so let's use that too. I want to get a very crispy and crunchy sound out of it, and the diode distortion algorithm will be the best for that. The distortion style choice is followed later with distortion amount adjustment. Notice the distortion is after the reverb. It's going to give a much harsher sound because the reverb gets distorted too. Let's compare it against the order where the distortion is before the reverb. If the sound is too harsh though, you can make it less aggressive by turning down the mix a bit. Let's add more rhythm. Aside from the reverb, another spatial effect is the delay. I don't need the delay to be distorted, so this time I will put it after the distortion. The delay will sound more interesting once I set it to ping pong mode. That pans the delay repetitions heavily to the left and right. You can make the sound more interesting if you decide to use either triplet or dot delay times. To separate the delay from the dry sound, I will use a filter section. This is a bandpass filter, and I will cut with it both low and high frequencies out of delay repetitions. At last, I will make the delay louder by increasing the mix, but at the same time I will turn down the amount of echo repetitions for a simpler sound. The last effect in the chain is the equalizer. Our lead sound could sound brighter, it could have more air inside. If so, then I should boost the frequency range at around 11 kHz. And if I want to make the sound less hissy, I'm going for the cut at around 2K. Let's create now a second KRTM style sound that is more smooth. Like before, our fundamental will be a saw wave. I am going to use immediately an LFO to create the vibrato effect. This time the LFO2 will control the pitch of the whole sound. We want this pad to be smoother than the previous sound, so we need to do a few extra things. One of them includes playing a chord. In the MIDI clip, I stack up 3 notes together. In Serum, I will change the volume envelope to create a fade in and fade out with the attack and release knobs respectively. The first oscillator I will add will be a mellow part of the sound. If it has to sound soft, then I want the waveform to not deviate too much from a sine wave. I will use a wavetable from the spectral category. Mostly it contains aggressive wavetables, but this one, after tweaking the wavetable position control, gives both soft and interesting sound. To add some smooth background, I will make use of unisono control now. So we make the oscillator A play a few waveforms where each one has a slightly different pitch. This creates a pleasant phasing effect. I will add to that sound just a bit of high-end by using the warping section. The BWM warping sounds very similar to tweaking the duty cycle of a square wave. Let's add the sub oscillator. And we will discover that the pitch of the oscillator A could be higher to both fit the sound to the sub oscillator and to make the synth lighter. The second oscillator I will add is going to sound similar, and its purpose is to make the synth sound richer. I will pick a waveform from the digital category that is, let's say, a middle ground between the analog and spectral wavetables. I will increase this oscillator's pitch as well. Because the oscillator A already gives a wide sound, thanks to the unison feature, I will keep the oscillator B in the center, so I won't use the unison feature. On the other hand, I will turn off the phase randomization to make the sound start from the same place every time I play a note. I'm fine-tuning the sound by tweaking the wavetable position. And now I will add a bit of chaos to the sound. I will add back the sub oscillator and use the warping section for frequency modulation where the sub oscillator is the source. Let's tweak the volume of the oscillator B to blend it well. The last thing I will do in the OSC section is add in a high-pass filter to make the sound lighter. For a transparent effect, that high-pass filter I use on all of the oscillators will have a gentle curve. I will drive the sound just to make it louder. And to make the sound more interesting, I will automate the cut-off knob for the filter. The LFO I will use will be in the envelope mode, so the modulation is present only in the beginning. Such LFO curve will make more and more frequencies be inaudible in time. Coming on to the effects tab, I begin with the reverb I have used in my previous preset as well. The main difference in the reverb settings is that now I am using the spin and spin depth knobs to modulate the reverb instead of a static reverb sound. I'm getting a slightly modulated background. I want the dry pad sound to be modulated more, so before the reverb, I'm using the hyper/dimension effect. For a less phaser-like effect, I will increase both the detune and modulation rate knobs, so the modulation will be faster and more intense, but this will make it blend with the synth better. The default amount of voices sounds okay, so let's only bring down the mix knob. And for just a bit more width, I will sadly add the dimension 2, that is a short phased delay signal. The equalizer that is put in the end of the chain will at first utilize a low shelf filter to make the sound lighter. This low shelf filter will sound more natural than just a high pass filter. A second filter, a bell filter, will make the sound less bloated by cutting the frequency area at around 250 Hz. The last cool trick I'd like to show you today is adding more spread to the sound by tweaking the settings from the global tab. Here, since we used unisono feature on the oscillator A, I can now increase the range parameter to for more chaos. I can also reduce the processing quality to make the sound more dirty.